Yeah, most of you are old enough to remember President Jimmy Carter. Yes? Yes? Hank's not old enough. President Jimmy Carter was an unusual president. Besides being mimicked and mocked on a regular basis, he had something that he did that was very unusual from any other president before him and after him. And he was yeah, he was honest. President Carter used to randomly choose just an individual's house that he would go to. They would call up and they said that President Carter would like to come stay at your house tonight. And randomly throughout the 4 years that he was president, he would go to people's houses and he would spend time with them, and he would stay overnight with them. And you can imagine the first unbelief when you got that phone call and said, "This is President Carter. I'm gonna come on and stay at your house." And I can only imagine if I'd gotten that phone call. First off, I don't think I'd have believed it. It's like, why would somebody so important call me in the first place? Why would they want to spend the night at my house? And after I probably saw the Secret Service agents surrounding the house and checking everything out a couple days before, I think it would probably set in. And I think it would turn from unbelief to a place where it came to, I gotta get ready for this. I mean, I can't just pull out something out of the refrigerator and say, "Hey Jimmy, you want to sit down and just eat some leftovers?" That really wouldn't be appropriate for the President of the United States. And I know that I would make sure that my house was clean and that everything was in its place and that I cleared my schedule. In fact, I'd probably end up clearing my schedule the day before, maybe 2 days before, to make sure that everything was just perfect. Because the President was coming to my house. And I thought, and I remembered back, I remember back in the 90s, I used to throw these huge Christmas parties. All right, I had a house over on Rivermont. It was 6,000 square feet. At Christmas, we would decorate 14 Christmas trees inside and outside of the house. So it was not unusual for the news people to show up and video the house every year, and we became accustomed to all of that. But it was for me, it was a matter of a chance to show off, a matter to get a chance to show everybody what I had done and what I had accomplished. But I remember one year, I always use those things to invite realtors and bankers and lawyers, all those people that were referring business to me. And I would always remember that the reason why I did that was to give something back to them because they had been so generous to me throughout the year. But ultimately, it came down to, I think I just wanted to show off. I just wanted to let them see what I had accomplished. But I remember one year, it was different. That one year, the most important man in my realm of my life showed up. He was the judge of the bankruptcy court. And since I was only practiced in bankruptcy, the thought and the idea of him coming to my house changed the way I did the Christmas party that year. I mean, we had 125, 150 people in the house for that Christmas party. But I remember that like it was yesterday because the judge lived in Danville. He was going to drive an hour all the way up to Lynchburg to come to my house. And you got to understand the significance of that. Judges and attorneys don't, as a rule, don't socialize. Right? The reason why they don't socialize is because they don't want to give off any indication that there is that something other than the separation between what the law says and what we're arguing in front of him. But I remember that night he showed up, and I remember when he showed up, I thought about all those other people that were in the house, they really didn't matter. And I remember catering to him and moving toward him and making sure that everything that he asked for or everything that he could possibly want, that need was met. And it didn't really matter about anybody else. I wanted to make sure that he had the best seat. I wanted to make sure that he got the food that he wanted. And I wanted to honor him. I wanted to show him that I cared deeply, because I do care for this man. And I wanted him to feel special, that he could come into a place and he could feel so special because he had shown up. And I thought it really wouldn't have been appropriate if I had just ignored him. I had invited him. It wouldn't have been good if I had just said, well, you know, Judge, you showed up 30 minutes late. You just eat what's left. Because I'd held special things back for him just to make sure that he had the opportunity to eat the shrimp and the crab cakes and all of those special things that would always be the first to go. And I wanted to make sure that he had the best of everything. And then I thought about my relationship with God. And I thought, I give God my best. At least that's what I say. I tell God, I want to give you the best of everything that I have to offer. But if I really look at my life, if I really get back to that place, I think I care more about myself in so many instances. I care more about who I am and what my needs are. Because honestly, and you're probably the same way, you may not be, but I'm going to make sure that I'm always getting the best for myself. It is my selfish nature. All right? If the menu is presented out there, I'm going to order the best thing, the nicest thing, the thing that would really help my appetite, would really meet my needs. And it really wouldn't matter if there was only one. I would want to make sure that I got that. And I think so much of my life, even now, when I look at it, I think, God, I bring you less than the best. I don't really give you what you've asked for. And that was, he's asking for everything. But more importantly, he's asking for me to give him not the leftovers. He doesn't want something that I have that I don't really need any longer, that I've used. He doesn't want the second best. He wants what is first. And so I thought about that. And I started. Woody said something at the end of the service last week that hit me, and it's been going through me, but then he said it at the end, and it says, don't bring any unblemished lambs. And I thought, in my life, what am I bringing that's second rate? What am I bringing to God that isn't pure and holy? You see, God set it all up in Scripture. All right? He started back in the Old Testament when he set out all of the celebrations and for all of the things that the Israelites were doing. He said, I want you to bring me an unblemished lamb. I want you to bring me the best. I want you to look through all of your flock. And a shepherd knew what was the prize. He knew what was the best. And yet I can only imagine that shepherd in some circumstances thought, you know, I could take that sheep to the market and I could get enough money for that to buy 20 sheep. And yet I'm just going to take it and it's going to be slaughtered and it's going to be burned up. I could use this and then I could give God the best of what the other things that I get. And this would be much more effective. And that's where we come to today. Because we came to that place last week on Sunday, and I don't often talk about stuff on Saturday that we talked about last Sunday, but I think this is so important. And Woody took us to a place in Malachi, and I'm not going to read it out of the Bible, but Bill Hybels did a paraphrase of those verses that were out of Scripture, and I want to read you his paraphrase. God was coming to the Israelites. They had been bringing in everything that was second rate, not best. And God's speaking to the Israelites, and he says, I am a great God. I treat you wonderfully. I don't deserve blemished lambs. What are you doing? I thought you loved me. I love you. If you really loved me, you could never offer me a blemished animal. You bring me a half-dead lamb because it doesn't net you anything at the market. You give me crippled lambs because you know they're going to die and you'll have to bury them, and you give them to me to save yourself the trouble. That is unthinkable. But then, do you know what you do? You get on your knees that night and you say, oh Lord, I have these 5 needs in my life, and I'm coming to you. You, great God, am begging for your favor. You've got to be kidding. You offer me a half-dead lamb and then get on your knees and request my favor? Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Someone shut the gates so that we can do away with this blasphemy.